Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven, and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some entitled parent stories, and our first story of the day is by Bronze Butterfly. $1,500 to help out with a major debt of mine, or holding onto a baby album out of sheer spite? I'll go with the spite. Paint my face and call me a goddarn clown. I should have known. I really should have known. Backstory. Entitled dad meets the whole checklist when it comes to malignant narcissism. He can do no wrong, no matter what. Everyone else is always wrong. Whatever. He has to have the newest, the best. Nothing else is acceptable. To that end, he bought a brand new 7-seater car 5 years ago. Treated that car better than me, honestly. I was the unfavorite of the family. Even though I tried my best to be useful, nothing was ever good enough. My younger half-siblings, the household help, and my stepmother were allowed to treat me however they wanted. I had moved to his country to get to know that side of my heritage, but when it got too bad, I noped out and went straight back to my mom's country. And backstory. Life has done him a bad turn. Good. Especially after I left there 3 years ago. He hasn't worked consistently, bills are piling up, and he even had a stroke, which I had to find out via telephone relay basically. As a result, he is in arrears of $6,000 USD and is struggling to pay it since he cannot work. He also owes property taxes. My sister's school fees are in arrears. He can't afford medication or rehab. Now, despite all of this, I spoke with my aunt, and she told me that despite him being a jerk, she felt a little sorry for him. I don't like him either, but I said I would give $1,500. Give, not loan. Provided that he give me the baby album I mistakenly left behind. Free money, basically to someone I am estranged from, just for a small thing. He keeps asking her if I sent the money yet. I hadn't. Then he starts saying to her that he will send me the digitized pictures because the album is not her property. He went on about how I was blackmailing him and he's not going to stand for it. That I hate him because I just won't send the money. I don't listen. I wasn't mistreated. I just made it look that way, but who am I to be believed anyway? Imagine being able to get out of debt a bit by just sending a worthless, money-wise album. Anyone smart would have taken the quiet shame of help, as opposed to the very public shame of having your car towed when everyone in your uppity neighborhood is there to see, of having your name published in the debtor's page of the newspaper. But I guess spite is keeping him alive, not the medication he can't afford to buy. He says that he's not going to stand for me blackmailing him. Fine, he can stand for the freaking bus then when the repo people come for that stupid car. I'm done. So, in your opinion, should OP just be prepared to never see those pictures again? Or should maybe OP try and do something extra to try and get those pictures? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Tiger Ruler 711, entitled Mother Lets Her Kid Play on the Escalator, then Yells at Me When I Yell at Her Brat. I know that sounds awful for the entitled brat, but I really can't word it any different. Now to start off, I have irrational fears, and some of them even I think are absolutely stupid, but that doesn't change my completely ridiculous reaction to these things. Whales, big tall clouds that look like tidal waves, balloons, and escalators. When I was about 5, I used to jump onto and off escalators for fear of getting eaten by the spiky teeth at the end. My dad, who, let's be honest, was only afraid of the price of a pint, thought as funny as this was, it had to stop. So we waited at the bottom and talked about how it worked until I thought I could do it without the hop. Stepped on fine, but alas, at the end, my raggy shoelace got caught and I absolutely panicked my wee brains out. He didn't try again, and I've been merrily hopping on and off for the last 20-something years. Today in the mall, I had grabbed some very light paint-by-number kits. I'm a laborer/operator by trade and, of course, have gone and pinched a nerve in my lower back, so a few days off work is coming, and I will not stare at the wall the whole time. It hurts bad enough that my partner Jay was holding my handbag, along with the heavier items we'd bought. The entire ride after my half-hop groan onto the escalator, there was this kid about 7 to 8 running up and down, darting around people, just playing silly buggers. I ignored it as best as I could until we came to the bottom. where the kid was just standing there staring at the ground, so feet half on, half off the later. I said excuse me quietly, excuse me loudly, and finally, oi kid, move it! By this time, I'm mildly panicking, backing up as fast as my useless back will allow, with Jay trying his best to get out of the way and take the box out of my hands. The kid just looks at me and doesn't move, so I end up half-hopping past him. His mother is at the end of the escalator and just starts laying into me. How dare I yell at her precious baby? He wasn't doing anything. Now, I'm not the nicest person at the best of times, and I was in nothing but pain, as anyone with a pinched nerve can attest. So I snapped and told her an escalator is not a freaking toy. Her kid is blocking the path to not only me, but elderly people, and she had no right telling me what to do if she couldn't even control a child. All of a sudden, the security guy was there. I was thinking a mix of, oh bollocks and how the freak did he get here so quick? Turns out he had already spoken to entitled mother about letting her kid run amok in the mall, and this was the final straw. Get your kid and get out. The look on her face was like someone had stuffed a lemon full of razor blades, then shoved it right where the sun didn't shine. She started yelling at him instead of me, thank God, and security guy gave me the "you can go" wave. We could still hear her yelling when we walked out the doors a good 200 meters away. So not super dramatic, but by God, lady, set a better example. Don't you just hate these kinds of people that you can see are clearly raising their children very badly? Like you know they're going to grow up with all kinds of bad behaviors around them and the inevitable result that kid's going to face. This next story is by Nagineo 101, Why Entitled Mother Can't Babysit One Neighbor's Autistic Son. This is more recent than during lockdown. As before, I have one neighbor with a child with developmental delays, entitled kid, and of course his mother, entitled mother. Now, I had been furloughed for a week when one of my nicer neighbors who has a 14-year-old autistic boy, who I will call NA, is as sweet as pie and loves everyone's pets. He asked to hang out at my house. Heck, I paid him to watch mine when my fiance, R, and I were out of town. NA's mom, NM, is super fun and we planned stuff to distract NA during this rough time. Entitled mother though kind of wrecked this though because she wanted us to include entitled kid. NA really dislikes entitled kid, and while I enjoy NA who loves crafts and cooking, entitled kid demands so much attention and has attacked NA on many occasions. NA had to stay with entitled mother due to a distance learning activity, and from what I heard as I was writing, it was pretty upsetting. Entitled mother saying, "You were supposed to let entitled kid win." NA is upset and walks out the door, shutting the door. "Your mom is at the store, get back here." NA says, "No yelling." Practically the only thing I heard until he's frantically knocking on my door. I answer, "What is going on?" Entitled mother, "I'm trying to work on my novel." NA, "You okay?" NA says, "She's yelling at me." I say, "Get inside. I'll tell your mom you came here." Entitled mother says, "He is supposed to be doing games with entitled kid. He is cheating." I say, "Sounds like you're being a bully to me. I was in special ed and you never yell at children like NA. Or should I yell at you too, like last time?" Fiance says, "Hey NA, wanna play Minecraft on our server?" "You don't even have kids. How dare you tell me how to take care of mine?" I say, funny. You have one kid and you barely are able to handle him." I close the door and call NM and tell her what happened. Within 10 minutes, entitled kid is knocking on the door. "Mom said I can come over." I say, "Go home, entitled kid. NA doesn't want to play your game right now." I am thoroughly aware that since I let NA in, that entitled mother has it in her head that I will let entitled kid in. I shut the door and entitled kid starts crying. NA says, "I don't like your game. Fiance and OP are letting me play my games. Bye." NM shows up with entitled mother, telling her how we kidnapped NA and turned him against her and her son. While I explain what happened and how I heard it, NM is a little more concerned about NA, who has the developmental age 11 or 12. He is vocal about what happened and about the game entitled kid wanted to play with him. He had already told fiance and I. I was about to call CPS on entitled mother, who looked surprised when we told her what entitled kid attempted to do. I say doctor is certainly not watching Doctor Who, now is it, entitled mother? I'm sure there has to be a mistake. Entitled kid would never do something like that. He is mentally 5 years old, and NA should have told me. He tried, but you felt that he was lying. He went to the safest people in the townhouses, fiance and I, since we've been furloughed. Just imagine what would have happened if we weren't. Honestly, I didn't want to. There was no yelling after that, and NM not only never allowed entitled mother to watch NA, she informed her husband, who decided to work from home, in order to make sure it never happened again. NA was still allowed to come over since his dad had to build a new computer for Minecraft for NA, and he has been playing Roblox with my nephew since May 2020. Entitled mother is still banned from babysitting and has since agreed to send entitled kid to therapy. Imagine not only being entitled like that, but being willfully ignorant of the behavior of your children and refusing to take responsibility for raising them properly. That entitled mother has a lot of issues. And our final story of the day is by Shifting Parallax. Entitled mom won't watch her kids, they climb into the pasture with my horses. So I've referenced the story a couple of times to people and decided I'd tell the full tale. I live in a rural neighborhood. Everyone's got 3 to 8 acres, so we're all pretty spaced out. I live on 5 acres and my nearest neighbors are a sweet elderly couple about 1 acre from me. They're perfect. The husband does yard work as a hobby and his wife bakes. We have a nice agreement where if I need something big chainsawed, he takes the wood down and uses it for the fireplace, and in exchange I trade recipes and bake with his wife. Honestly, they just like the company. I own my own home, have 2 horses, a cat, and recently my mom has also moved in because she was in financial trouble. I'm happy to help as she's good company and I'd do anything for her. And then everything changed when COVID attacked. So here's where things go south. My neighbor's son and his family, wife and 2 girls, 4 and 7, live in the nearest city and didn't feel safe. I don't blame them, and because my neighbors are saints, they opened their home and the brood moved right in. Up until this point, I was the youngest person in the neighborhood at 29. So having kids wander around is new for everyone. At first it was no big issue. They stayed inside, got settled, maybe they were good kids. Total long shot, I know, but a girl can hope. So one morning, I'm letting my horses out into the front pasture, a Clydesdale and a Welsh pony, and I hear the most high-pitched squealing from next door. It was so shrill, my Clydesdale second-guessed going outside, but cautiously proceeded, only to be met with more squeals. I pop my head out, and the 2 girls are literally losing their minds. And I get it, Little White Pony and the horse from Brave, but still, they're large animals they don't know, so they should have the sense not to approach, right? Pfft, not a snowball's chance in heck. These kids sprint to the fence shrieking. The pony runs around in panic, and the Clydesdale stands there with the same what the freak look I've got on my face. Then the 4-year-old starts to go under the fence. Heck no. "Don't you dare climb under that fence," said firmly and admittedly kind of harsh, but I'll be darned if I have my horses mow over a kid. I walk over to them and they look like they're about to cry, but I explain firmly that they're big animals and could hurt them easily and to never go over or under the fence. They go home, I clean stalls. An hour in, I hear someone banging on my home's door, and I can see through my barn's hatch door, my mom and the kid's mom are having a conversation. The kid's mom then storms down to the barn. I've never met this lady, but I know an entitled parent when I see one. Joy of joys. She starts going off on me. "How dare you make my kids cry? They just wanted to see the ponies, blah blah blah." But when she takes a breath, I get my point across. "Ma'am, your youngest was crawling under the fence towards 2 large animals none of you know. That Clydesdale is a 2,000-pound draft horse. He can literally crush you, not feel it, and do permanent damage. The pony looks cute, but needs an experienced hand as he is very untrustworthy, flighty, and has a tendency to bite. Your children are not allowed near them without my consent and heavy supervision. and never allowed in the pasture with them. Do you understand? She then starts ranting about, well, if they're so dangerous, why do you have them? Are you even allowed to have them? I should call animal control. That crap. 1. They're my personal horses. Yes, I'm allowed to have them. 2. Your kids trespassed on my property. I'm trying to keep them safe. 3. This is not a petting zoo. She huffs off. I continue work. Later that evening, when the husband gets home, I explain what happened. He's understandably alarmed, and I explain how dangerous that situation is. He agrees. Not that my horses are aggressive, mind you, but it's inherently dangerous in general. You've got a 50 to 200 pound human versus a 800 to 2,000 pound horse. If you don't know what you're doing, you can be seriously injured. Pure physics. So I'm optimistic with his reaction, but no, he's often not home, so I stay cautious. Later in the next week, I'm working from home and I suddenly hear screaming. Not excited screaming, scared little kid screaming. I rush outside and the 4-year-old is bawling in the middle of the pasture with the pony doing laps around the perimeter of the fence as my Clydesdale slowly approaches the little girl. The 7-year-old is crying outside the fence and calling for her mom, but clearly their mom is not watching them. My initial terror recedes a bit because my Clydesdale is essentially a golden retriever in a horse's body. Sweetest pushover in the world. He's gingerly approaching her in a slow, friendly way and being as non-threatening as he can. And with him so close, the pony won't rush them. He's probably about 3 steps from her, but I yell for him to halt and, like a good boy, he does. I make my way in with them and start asking the girl questions. Are you hurt? Being paramount, she's not, but she's clearly scared. So I pick her up and walk out, making my Clydesdale heel to me just in case the pony gets a dumb idea. The mom is still nowhere in sight, so I take them to my neighbors. What precedes is about 30 minutes of screaming and crying. The girl's mother was the one to open the door. She starts screaming at me and firing off questions before my neighbors intervene. I tell everyone exactly what happened, and my elderly neighbors blew up. At her, not me. They screamed at her for being so irresponsible and negligent, how they could have been hurt. The mom tried throwing blame on me, but they weren't having it. My neighbors apologized profusely, and I go about my day until the husband gets home. He came by and apologized too, for his family's behavior, and especially the behavior of his wife. I accepted it and said I understood. They're little girls. I too know the allure of magnificent fluffy horses. The mom was at fault for not watching the kids. I'm just glad everyone was okay. The girls were still really shook up, so I extended an olive branch because, well, I was an overexcited kid who liked horses once too, just with a horse mom who knew what she was doing, and I didn't want this to completely traumatize them from being around horses. So the next day, I properly introduced them to my Clydesdale, with him in his stall with the inside hatch open and the girls being supervised by their father and me, safe in the barn. They loved it. Clydesdale loved the attention. Everyone's happy, right? Well, except the mom, who took my olive branch as an offer to teach them horseback riding, give free lessons, and other crap, but her husband shot it down hard, and presumably so did my neighbors. Since then, it's been quiet. I did, however, install a second electrical wire on the bottom, not just on the top, just in case. And yes, they did test it. 7-year-old got zapped pretty good and got in trouble with her dad. Aside from that, there have been no incidents other than them wanting to pet them when I drop evening feed once in a while. Here's hoping it stays peaceful. But seriously, don't go up to animals you don't know. I think that's just human instinct 101 to not go up to big, massive animals you don't know. You shouldn't assume just because an animal belongs to somebody that they're capable of having nothing but totally great manners. That mom was nothing but entitled. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So, until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.